Tonight on the Vince Dao Show, am I a Putin apologist? That's the accusation. Am I a Russian spy? We'll address those claims. And Tucker Carlson sends out a questionnaire to all presumptive 2024 Republican candidates. We'll tell you which each candidate responded with. And apparently you can now identify as Asian. You know, I identify as. Apparently you can now do that with your race as well. We'll give you our thoughts. That's all coming up tonight on the Vince Dao Show. Stay tuned. And we are live tonight from the great state of Florida. Welcome to the Vince Dao Show. I am your host, Vince Dao. And before we begin, everyone be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Now, while we wait for everyone to pour into the chat and you know, get notified about the stream, I want to ask you guys a question. How's your day been going? I care about you. So let me know how your day has been going in the chat. I know for me personally, I know my day was freaking cold, okay? Because I woke up today, I live in Florida, I woke up today, it was 47 degrees. It was 47 degrees, chat. And I know you Yankees out there are going to be like, oh, it's like negative 10 degrees where I live. Well, understand, it's been in the like upper 80s last several weeks. I don't know what a sweatshirt is. I don't know what pants are. And then I go outside today. I had to go to Whole Foods and I went to go work out. 47 degrees, absolutely unbelievable. So I've had a freezing day, but let me know how your day has been going. And welcome to the Vince Dao Show. We are doing this show live every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern time, so be sure to join us here nightly. Let's see how many likes we're at right now. We're at 31 likes. Let's get that up. Let's get to 50 likes in the next few minutes. Now, if you want to support the show, and especially if you want a question or comment to be answered on stream for sure, you can do so by sending in a super chat. A super chat is the best way to support the show, first of all. And then secondly, I check the super chats periodically between the segments. And so if you want your comment read for sure, send it in that way. And if I miss your super chat in between the segments, we will do a lengthy Q&A portion at the end of the show, especially lengthy tonight because I have a slightly shorter show for you tonight. So for the people who enjoy the chat interaction, you will have that. All right. But okay, before we start the show here, let me check the time real quick. What time is it? Oh, it's the hour of Dao, which means let the Vinsanity begin. All right, you guys got to let me know. Was that cringe? We're trying to figure out, you know, a new like kind of intro here. So is that a cringe slogan or is that like cool? Let me know in the chat. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the news tonight. So let's start off by an issue that is not controversial on YouTube at all. Every time we discuss the war in Ukraine, I am deemed a crazy, radical, America First isolationist. Now, that is a label I don't find to be particularly insulting. In fact, I wear that proudly. But if you're going to call me crazy, I think it's fair to at least compare my ideas side by side with your ideas. I mean, if you're going to call me crazy, then let's compare what I'm saying versus what you are saying. So, what I have advocated for in regards to this conflict is that instead of sending endless taxpayer dollars to Ukraine with no discernible end goal, right? You ask these people, why are we sending this money? They can't really actually tell you. My proposal is that we actually step in now and try to negotiate or help negotiate a diplomatic peace treaty, right? A peaceful solution instead of continuing to fuel endless war for the sake of the military-industrial complex. Now, for doing so, I am labeled pro-Putin. I am told that if I want to broker any type of peace between the two nations, then I must be a Putin apologist. I may even be a Russian asset, which, of course, is not true at all. So again, let's put my ideas side by side with the ideas of the war hawks. And that doesn't just mean Biden, obviously. That means the war hawks on both sides. So let's put my ideas side by side with the liberals, obviously, but also the neocons, also kind of the establishment GOP, just the entire globalist uniparty in Washington. Let's compare ideas because, again, they want to call us the crazy radicals. So let me get into my ideas, and then we'll compare it to what the other side is saying about this. So let me tell you why I advocate for this very radical far-right idea known as peace in Eastern Europe, okay? So the way I see it right now, pragmatically speaking, this war is effectively in a stalemate, right? Russia has failed in its goal to blitzkrieg all of Ukraine, right? As you saw last year, they failed to take Kyiv. And so to the Ukrainians' credit, if the fear was, oh, they're going to topple Ukraine immediately, that obviously has not happened. And to Ukraine's credit again, I think they've actually done a pretty good job sticking up for themselves, right? But that's why I further would say, you know, even to take a moderate position here, they're actually in a good negotiating position right now because we are stuck in this stalemate. And so to me, the end outcome of this war seems obvious and inevitable, which is that, let's be honest, everyone knows this is how the war is going to end. Russia will get to keep Crimea. Probably they'll annex some parts of the eastern regions, but most of Ukraine will get to keep its territorial sovereignty intact. Can we be honest? Everyone knows that's how this war is going to end, right? Ukraine will probably get to keep a lot of its country. Russia will keep Crimea. Maybe some of the eastern regions get annexed by Russia. Everyone on the planet with any degree of common sense or eyes knows that that is the end outcome of the war, and that like, regardless of whether it ends tomorrow or if we keep this dragging on for several more years, let's all be honest, that's more likely than not how the war is going to end. The reason I say we ought to step in and broker peace is that I think by fueling the war, we're only delaying the inevitable, and in the process of delaying the inevitable, we are letting a bunch of people die for what? Inches of territory? A stalemate? Why? What's the point of that? That's brutal, that's savage, that's unnecessary, and even from a completely practical perspective, not even caring about, you know, the humanitarian aspect of this, it's a lot of American tax dollars, right? So we can keep paying billions of more dollars to get the same outcome, or we can just say, okay, well, why don't both sides try to sue for peace here, which, again, seems like a very realistic outcome. Of course, the Biden administration thinks the opposite. Biden thinks that we have to continue to fund this war with billions of American tax dollars. And privately, on top of that, you have a lot of sources alleging that Biden officials have actually actively told Ukrainian officials not to negotiate, right? And so this is the rumor you've been hearing from inside D.C. for the past year or so, which is that since March, basically since the start of this conflict, there has been a door open for peace. And Biden and his officials have actively been stepping into the Ukrainian government and saying, do not negotiate, keep up the war, keep up the fight. And again, for what? To keep wasting more money and lives on the same thing that's probably bound to happen anyway? I would even go further and say that what I am proposing in many ways is a best possible solution for Ukraine. Because don't get me wrong, I did say that I think this is going to happen anyway, and I think this is the most likely scenario. But let's also be clear about this, because people always say, oh, you just want to surrender Ukraine to Russia. Well, there is a worst case scenario here. Okay? And the worst case scenario is that Russia, who, as you've seen with their military currently, they don't fully have their act together. The worst case scenario for Ukraine is that Russia actually does end up getting its act together, right? The worst case scenario is where they, you know, obviously you've seen a lot of incompetence and ill preparedness on Russia's part, which is part of why Ukraine is actually putting up a good fight. But the numbers don't lie. Russia has more manpower. Russia has more resources than Ukraine. And it's only a matter of time. Not only do the numbers not lie, but history does not lie, folks. Think back to World War II. And think back to a lot of other cases in Russian history. As we famously know, Russia started off World War II famously incompetent, under-industrialized, and slow to act at the start of the war. This is why Germany made such significant strides in the early days of Operation Barbarossa on the Eastern Front. Sound familiar? This seems to be the story of Russian history, right? They're a very slow and kind of incompetent country to mobilize at first. It's a big country after all. But then what happened over time? What happened over time was that the Russians slowly started to figure things out, right? They got the war machine turning properly. They obviously had the manpower to overwhelm the Germans. And by the end of the war, the once backwater and incompetent Soviet Union was a highly efficient and deadly military force that actually ended up reaching Berlin before we did, and was obviously, as you know from world history, a very formidable threat to the Western Allies for another 5 decades. I would further remind our audience that many of these same criticisms and mockery that is made of Russia today was also said at the start of World War II. So what do we say about Russia today? Oh, it's like a third world country. Oh, their technology's outdated. Oh, they're big, but they're not really modernized, right? Well, that's what people were saying about the Soviet Union in 1939, right? They were seen by the West as a backwater, unindustrialized, basically third world nation. The Soviet military was regarded as a joke with a lot of outdated technology. Does that line sound familiar? Oh, their technology is outdated. Well, what started to happen? They started producing stuff. They started kind of getting back in the game on that front. Okay? Does this all sound familiar to you? Of course, modern historians, if you kind of hear about World War II, will lambast like Hitler's, for his strategically stupid decision to invade Russia. This is what you very often hear. Oh, Hitler was stupid to invade Russia, etc. But it should be, and perhaps that's true, but it should also be noted that the Western Allies thought similar things of the Soviet Union. Churchill and the British intelligence back then estimated that the USSR would collapse within a few months of the war due to the nation's, again, backwater incompetence. And obviously, you know what really happened in world history. What happened? Russia got its act together, and next thing you knew, the post-World War II Soviet Union, eventually a nuclear power, all of that stuff was born. Does this all sound familiar to you? It should. So now my question is, you want to talk about, oh, well, Vince, you just want to surrender Ukraine to Russia. Well, let me turn that back on you, because the longer you keep up, I'm saying, well, the best thing you could get right now is like a peace deal for both sides, right? Peace is good. But again, if you continue up this fight, yeah, Russia may collapse, Putin may fall, which is the same thing they said about Stalin. But also, history teaches us very often it's also possible in Russia that they could actually, get their act together, figure things out. And next thing you know, you have an actually strong Russia that Ukraine, no matter how much money you send them, is going to be able to stop, okay? Let me point that out to you. There is a scenario here where Russia finally figures out and their army just goes roughshod on Ukraine, and then they actually are capable of taking over more of Eastern Europe, which they probably are not right now. Is that what you want to happen? Let's send billions more to Ukraine. Is that what you want to happen? Or would you rather end the war now, largely kind of in a humiliating way on the Russians' part, because they would have demonstrated to the world they're a bit of a weaker military force than they thought, and negotiate peace before the Russian war machine figures out how to start turning? Again, I still think that the most likely scenario is just this partition, right? Obviously. But there is absolutely, the longer you go, the higher the risk gets that Russia actually starts to get its act together. And so I would say that to the neocons. But since you disagree with my solution, to the war hawks, the neolibs, the neocons, let's hear your solution. Because in my opinion, I laid out a coherent, realistic, specific strategy and outcome. So what's yours? What is your strategy? What's your realistic outcome? What are you trying to pursue in Ukraine? Do you notice how the Ukraine moneymongerers can never lay out a coherent explanation for what they're actually trying to do in Ukraine? They can never explain what their strategic goal is. They can never explain their objective. They never justify why they're sending over these billions of dollars to fund this globalist agenda, other than, oh, well, Putin is bad, Putin bad, Putin bad. Oh, Putin is a dictator, democracy, this and that. Okay, Putin being bad in democracy, those are not reasons. Those are not objectives. Okay, they're not strategic objectives, dork. Okay, you don't go to war saying defend democracy. You lay out, okay, here's what we're trying to. They don't have one. They don't have a strategy at all. We can't just write blank checks to nations with a subline, Putin bad, here's $80 billion. What's actually the point? What are you trying to achieve? You notice how they never have the answer to this question, and when you actually corner them, sometimes they will give you the real answer, and the real answer I have heard is incredibly dumb and unrealistic, which is, basically to drive Russia out of all Ukrainian territory, including Crimea. You've probably heard this before. Like, just kick all the Russians out. They won't take an inch of land and give back Crimea. And it's like, yeah, because that's a realistic solution, really. You're going to kick Russia not just out of what they've invaded. You're going to kick them out of Crimea too, and then you're going to say, we're not going to end the war until that happens? That's never going to happen. That's delusional and insane. You're not going to drive Russia back to its pre-2014 borders. This is a stupid idea that there's no way Ukraine could even get that done. And they know this. They know it's a very unrealistic and unachievable goal. They know they are basically just setting money and lives on fire for basically no reason. I don't think they care. And folks, those are the people that call us the America Firsters, the people who are kind of asking very basic level questions about what we're doing and why we're doing it here. Those are the people that call us crazy. They say, for not supporting our proxy war, you are a lunatic. But they can't actually explain why they're doing the proxy war to begin with. It's completely devoid of reality. And while this segment, like I said, may come off as a criticism of Biden because, you know, Biden is obviously kind of the one spearheading all of our foreign policy, it should be noted that much of the Republican Party likewise shares these delusional America Last sentiments. This week, Tucker Carlson sent out a questionnaire to every presumptive Republican candidate. By the way, this B-roll on the screen right here, this is kind of a joke, okay? I saw this liberal like action group put out this thing of Tucker on Twitter, and I thought it was funny. So we're playing it as B-roll. But anyways, Tucker sent out a questionnaire to every Republican candidate regarding the conflict. And I think it's important to know for the purposes of transparency where all of our candidates stand on this very important issue, in my opinion. So first question here that Tucker asked to the candidates, he asked, is opposing Russia in Ukraine a vital American national strategic interest? So first off, Donald Trump said, no, but it is for Europe. Okay, adding that European allies should be paying far more than we are or equal. Decent answer, pretty solid answer on Trump's part, pretty straightforward and to the point. DeSantis told Tucker Carlson, while the U.S. has many vital national security interests, becoming further entangled in a territorial dispute between Ukraine and Russia is not one of them. That's a slightly less straightforward answer than Trump, a little bit more politician, but I would argue the at least general sentiment, even if you want to say it's politician talk, I'll give him credit, at least the general sentiment is kind of in the right direction. Kristi Noem says that China is the primary external threat, but then we get to other characters like Mike Pence and Nikki Haley, okay? So Mike Pence's answer is this from Fox News, from the Fox News article. Pence touted the Reagan doctrine of fending off enemies on their shores to prevent America's direct involvement, telling Carlson. He says, this is Mike Pence speaking, there is no room for Putin apologists in the Republican Party. This is not America's war, but if Putin is not stopped and the sovereign nation of Ukraine is not restored quickly, he will continue to move towards our NATO allies, and America would then be called upon to send our own. The Reagan doctrine. That's Mike Pence's justification. Not any like kind of new current, the Reagan doctrine. Because it's still the Cold War and the Soviet Union is apparently still around, right? There's actually more I want to say on this front, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But let's continue here. So I believe Tim Scott, they asked Tim Scott, and Tim Scott said, it is a vital national interest to degrade Russia's military. That was his answer. So again, here we go. No real objective, no real answer other than, oh, we want to degrade Russia's military. We want to make Russia look bad. That's not an answer. That's not a strategic objective. Oh, we just want to humiliate. Let's spend all this money and, provoke World War III because we want to humiliate Russia. What the heck kind of reason is that? Tim Scott. So that was him. Chris Christie similarly stated, Russia's aggression against Ukraine is a national security issue that threatens our alliances and our standing in the world. This is a proxy war being waged by Russia's ally China against the United States. It would be naive to call this anything but Chinese aggression. It's a little bit of a stretch, but okay. Nikki Haley said America is far better off with a Ukrainian victory than a Russian victory, including avoiding a wider war. And she said that a Russian victory will make its allies Iran and Russia more aggressive. So what does that mean exactly? It sounds to me like a lot more warmongering with no real end in sight. That's what it means. And that's basically half of your Republican candidates. Again, Trump, he gave a answer saying, well, it's not as much our business as Europe. DeSantis says it's not really our business in sort of a vague way. But then you have the other kind of just clown car of Republican candidates all out here going and saying Reagan doctrine. Okay, so just remember that. Keep an eye on that. And I want to say this, okay? And this segment might make some people kind of mad, but it absolutely needs to be said. I especially despise the Mike Pence answer of the Reagan doctrine. And let me tell you why. The reason why is because, say what you will about Reagan. There are positive things that conservatives have to say about Reagan, obviously many positive things, but it is no longer the Cold War, okay? To cite a guy who was president 40 years ago, keep that in mind. Okay, listen, older people in chat and stuff, I get it. Time flies, but that was 40 years ago, guys, 40 years ago. Ronald Reagan passed away 20 years ago. And not only that, it's not just a matter of the time period. He oversaw a fundamentally much different era of world history. Okay, it's not the Cold War anymore. It's not the 1980s anymore. And frankly, to Mike Pence, to the GOP, a lot of the electorate today is too young to even remember the 80s, which is to say, I think in many ways, the political approach of the 1980s, while we can learn lessons from it, while there are things that we ought to translate over, large scale, it is not an approach that's going to work in 2023. But Mike Pence is not alone, okay? It's not just Mike Pence who is clinging to the ghost, the corpse of Ronald Reagan here. It pervades a lot of the GOP, so much so that it pervades the GOP itself. Here's a tweet yesterday from the official GOP Twitter account. And, there's nothing very controversial here, nothing particularly wrong. But notice they're still using like the image of Ronald Reagan as a persuasive tactic. And you could say, and again, if this were like one tweet amidst a bunch of other stuff, then I'd say, okay, whatever, fine, go ahead, do your Reagan thing. But it just seems like we hear this all the time still. We're still talking about Ronald Reagan in the year 2023. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying any of this because I particularly hate Ronald Reagan. In fact, the older I grow, my opinion grows more positive on him, right? I do have some genuine criticisms, and I think those are criticisms that conservatives should acknowledge. Like, he set bad precedents on things like amnesty, trade, gun control. Like, there are genuine criticisms to be made of Reagan, but I also do acknowledge, and this is something maybe I didn't recognize when I was younger, but I do acknowledge that, like, in context, he took 2 decades of basically more or less unbroken liberal control in American government and politics and broke that and created a huge conservative coalition that, at least revived, if not for a short time, kind of, the American spirit, right? And so don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-Reagan. I don't hate the guy. I think there are net positives from the Reagan Revolution. And I think when I was a lot younger, and, my older fans might remember this, when I was a lot younger, I think I was a little mistaken because I saw so many neocons do this whole shtick where they're still like LARPing for Reagan and simping for Reagan in 2023 that I did not even look back and really realize that in a lot of ways, neoconservatives actually co-opted the Reagan Revolution and took the worst aspects of it and made it far, far worse. So that's a long explanation to say I don't actually hate Ronald Reagan. As I get older, I understand there's a lot more nuance on the Reagan question. But point being, still, Ronald Reagan has been dead for 20 years. Maybe you can leave him to rest in peace and offer a forward vision. How about that? You guys ever thought of that? A forward vision for America instead of, being stuck in 2003? Folks, the GOP of 2003 died a long time ago, but it 100% died when Donald Trump won the Republican primary in 2016. That was the final nail in the coffin for the GOP of 2003. And like I said again, for just to put it in perspective, that was 40 years ago. Basically, like half of the American population wasn't even alive. It's time to get with the program, GOP. It's time to actually present a vision for the future and not cling to old Cold War cliches that do not have the same application back then that they did today. But all right, before we continue on here with the show, I'm going to pause. I know we got a lot of super chats. We got $65 in super chats, and so I will go and check that out. But before we do that, I want to plug the Discord server. So for members, this is for channel members. We launched the beta test of the Discord server today. It's available for tier 2 channel members and higher. And so if you're interested in joining the Discord, consider becoming a member. Again, that's tier 2 and higher. I may think about moving it down to tier 1, but for now it's tier 2. We're still trying to test everything out. So consider becoming a channel member. Link to do so is in the description. Again, if you want to join the Discord that we are starting up. Again, the Discord is live, so promises made, promises kept on that front. And I figure we can work out exactly what we want to do with that Discord. But anyways, let's pause for super chats. I know we got quite a few here, ladies and gentlemen. So let me scroll all the way up here, chat. Seth Boardman. He became a Vince Dao nationalist, joining the members section. So Seth Boardman will now have access to the Discord server. Thank you very much, Seth Boardman, for joining the membership. Appreciate it. God bless you, and glad to see a brand new member. Hold on, I'm getting hiccups here. That's not good. Okay, Joe Biden is implanting hiccups in my throat to interrupt the stream. Zachary Barnett for $2. Thank you very much. Says, going great enough, looking for work uselessly. Well, it is the Joe Biden economy, right? It is the Joe Biden economy. But I will say this, Zach. Thank you very much for the $2. God bless you. Looking at doing some freelance stuff, right? We have an attention economy. We have a big gig economy on the internet. Maybe look into that. Maybe like take some courses on it. And here's an idea. If you can't find a job, offer businesses to do like their Facebook ads, marketing, or copyright for them, stuff like that. That's all a lot of stuff you can do freelance and just hit up small businesses to do. And I know quite a few people who have made a lot of money on that. Or things like drop shipping. You can look into that. Again, you got to kind of learn how to do it. But if you learn how to do it, you can get work off of that. So consider what I said. If you can't find work, you don't want to be a wagey, whatever, consider looking into that. There are a lot of independent ways nowadays to make money off the internet. So thank you very much for the $2. Hope you find work. Hope you get that figured out. We are at 96 likes right now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be sure to get that to 100 likes and bump it up. I want 150. Let's go. Let's get those numbers up. Be sure to leave a like on the stream. Hunger for more. 6998 for $20. Let's go. Thank you very much. Hunger for more. Big support tonight. Thank you very much. God bless you. Says, I'm from LA and my favorite radio show I listen to just got moved back an hour and cut by an hour. I love your show so far. If you decide to keep doing this, you have my support. Thank you very much for the $20 and the support there. Hunger for more. God bless you. Thank you for the 20 and I appreciate it very much. Yes, we do indeed plan to continue doing this show. Now, 5 years from now, if the show goes nowhere and I'm making no money, then obviously we're going to have to make a big life decision there. But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen because we're going to succeed, okay? Billionaire mindset, so true. But yes, we do plan on doing this show regularly. We do plan on keeping this up. This is obviously like the model of content that, everyone does. And people seem to be liking the show, okay? And I'm sure as we continue doing it more consistently, the viewership's going to go up. The popularity is only going to go up. We'll get guests on the show and collaborations and stuff like that coming soon, maybe as soon as tomorrow night. And so we definitely continue to plan on doing it. Thank you very much for the $20. Big donation. Appreciate that very much. JD for $2 says, libs who can't define what a woman are attacking Mandel. Mandel who? Josh Mandel? Mike Lindell? I'm not sure who Mandel is, but thank you very much for the $2. JD. Nike's... Ningside says for joins the Dao Pack General tier. Thank you very much. I'm not even gonna try to figure out how to say that name. Not Ningside. Thank you very much, Dao, for joining the Dao Pack General membership tier. Zeb Boykin for $5 says Russia can't afford a treaty while NATO still exists. It's the same as defeat. I don't know how true that is, though, because Russia is also realistic. They over time, the public support for the war, even in that country, is going to go down. And what are they going to realistically do? Take over Ukraine? I think they kind of realized at the point that that's not going to happen. But thank you very much for the $5, Zeb. Aaron Chambers for $10 says, as promised, I announced you on the Whatever podcast last night. Just wanted to let you know. Thank you very much for the support, and thank you very much for mentioning me on the podcast, Aaron Chambers. God bless you. Hopefully they see it. We did send some emails over to their producers, and so we'll see if anything happens on that front. No promises, no guarantees, but I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the support you've sent the past few nights, Aaron Chambers. God bless you. Real homie, big homie, Aaron Chambers. My strongest soldier, Aaron Chambers. Thank you very much for the $10. God bless you. Burgundy Blue. We got a lot of super chats, folks. Burgundy Blue for $10 says, hey, Vince, I think you had a lot of unique takes in this segment. I agreed on some points and disagreed on others. I think you have a way of coming at the issues from an interesting perspective. Thank you very much for the support in the $10. Burgundy Blue, God bless you. And, that's fine. That's fine. But I do think it's kind of a unique perspective. I don't think I've heard a lot of conservative pundits frame it in this way, but I kind of just thought about it logically and historically, and that's the conclusion I came to. But thank you very much for the support. God bless you. Burgundy Blue. We're never going to get on with the show. We got so many super chats here. Okay, let's read these ones. Zach Barnett, Marintet, why did I say Barnett? Says, DeSantis' answer pleasantly surprised me. Thank you for the $2, Zach Barnett. Burgundy Blue for $5 says, I think saying that this war will end in some type of partition, no matter how long it goes, is something we all need to keep in mind. Thank you very much for the $5, Burgundy Blue. And yeah, it is true, right? But let's be realistic. Russia's not going to walk away with nothing, and Ukraine, it seems like, is not going to walk away with nothing either. And so thank you very much for the $5. All right, let's try to get through this here. Robert Sparkman, and that's not a bad issue to have, but Robert Sparkman for $10. Thank you very much. Says, Vince, what does alpha moves only mean? Okay, I'll tell the story for this really quickly. So back in high school, I got mass harassed by classmates for not supporting Black Lives Matter and doing the content and stuff like that. I've been doing this for years, and which was fine. But then they doxed me. Okay, literally, I had classmates put my address out on Twitter and stuff like that, and joke about getting me killed and all that different stuff. And so it's a slogan we invented kind of in response to that, because I was I was trying to build this image of being unbeatable, undefeatable, and so I don't remember exactly how it started at this point. I just remember back in actually that stream I was just I invented the slogan, alpha moves only, we only take W's, we only win. And that's how it all started. 2020. It's a very old slogan. I don't think most people on this channel even remember the backstory, but that's where it all started. An alpha move is alpha, top dog, like a big man, whatever, right? And then if you make an alpha move, then all the decisions you make are only big man, macho guy moves, if that makes sense. Because you said you're an old guy, so you're challenged. So, okay, so that's kind of an explanation there. Also, do you think the Democrats dislike Russia more than China due to Russia's alleged friendliness toward the Orange Man? Absolutely, yeah. And it goes more into it's more than the Orange Man, I think, I don't think Russia is a perfect society. I don't think Putin is a perfect leader, but they're kind of different from each other, Russia and China, right? Putin is a lot more of people call him a communist, and yeah, he does sometimes idolize the Soviet Union because he's trying to draw from Russia's past greatness or whatever. But it seems to me what he's really trying to do is restore the Tsardom, right? And kind of restore the power of the old Russian Orthodox Church. Now, how effective is he at that? That's up to be debated. But I think kind of that image of him as being sort of more of a right-wing type of figure in a way, I think that is definitely why the Democrats seem to care more about the Russia thing than the China thing. And then the Republicans care more about China because China obviously is still communist, quote unquote, right? So yeah, that absolutely is it. Okay, last super chats here, and then we're going to get on with the show. Mr. Big Brain for $5 says, Reagan, while far from the worst thing to happen to us, ultimately was a corporatist shill that traded the soul of America for profit. Thank you very much for the $5, Mr. Big Brain. And, I shared that sentiment when I was younger, and it is largely true to an extent, right, in many different ways. But I think we should also acknowledge kind of the fact that conservatism would not, in the modern day, would not exist without Ronald Reagan. And the revival of the 1980s, sure, even if it was not ultimately successful, I think it genuinely did bring about a lot of positive changes. I mean, America was headed towards the corporatist nonsense before, right? When we got rid of the gold standard, you kind of started to see those gaps, immigration, 1965, all that stuff. There were factors before and after Reagan. You could say Reagan contributed to them in some ways. But like I said, I think there are ways to acknowledge that Reagan was, in many ways, a net positive. I mean, better than Carter, obviously. We can talk about that a little bit more later in the show. But last one here, Mayo GSN. Am I saying that right? You're a regular in chat, but I still don't know how to say your name. Became a Vince Dao Patriot Tier 2 member. Thank you very much. And hope to see you soon in the Discord server. All right, let's get on with the show here, folks. Again, if you want to send in a super chat, it is the best way to do so, and we'll read them after this segment. Well, all right, next story here. So I saw this on Twitter the other day. Breaking from NPR, the Oscars in context, the Oscars were on Sunday. Michelle Yeoh wins the Oscar for Best Actress, making history as the first person who identifies as Asian to win the award. So notice the language, right? Identifies as Asian. That's what we're doing now. Race is not something intrinsic you're born with. Apparently now you can identify as Asian. You can identify as a race, which in that case I identify as black, okay, because black people racially are on like the top of the intersectional hierarchy, obviously as we know. So I identify as black, so you can't call me racist anymore. I deserve all the affirmative action, all the diversity quotas, and this is real. But anyways, point being, Michelle Yeoh is indeed the first Asian to win an Oscar for Best Actress. Woohoo, I guess, right? First Asian to win the Best Actress Oscar. My question is, why did the award not go to this guy? I think this is the greatest mistrial in Academy Award history, okay? Literally, like, I'm Kanye West at, like, the 2010 Grammys right now, okay? I'm Kanye West. Taylor Swift is Michelle Yeoh, and then Beyonce is Zayed, our boy Zayed. And I'm here shutting down the show, going up in the middle of the Oscars and saying, okay, this is wrong. We all know Zayed Ahmad is the best actress in America of 2022, by far, okay? And you may think I'm joking. You may think I'm being satirical or ridiculous here, but I stand by my ground. Again, Best Actress of 2022. And I brought the receipts to prove it, which I know my subscribers have probably seen this clip a million times, but this is what they do at the award show ceremonies, right? They will play back the best clips of the movie or the music video, so that way, you can show them before they go to award consideration. And so just one more time, for the purposes of this award show, let us see the proof that Zayed Ahmad, our boy, our favorite person here, is indeed the best actress of 2022.
Statistically, it is true that Asians, right, on average, make more money, in terms of medium, make more money, better test scores, get into better colleges, all that stuff. I think the question is, why is that? And I don't know, model minority, whatever that label wants to mean.
That's actually a myth, because we cannot be...
Well, no, listen. Well, let me finish my point. We need to observe what makes people successful and unsuccessful. And I think when you look at trends that are generally true in the Asian community, not of everyone, but are generally true, usually you have families that are sticking together.
Look at it.
You have, people are taught to work hard in school, not get into trouble. I think that translates to why Asians en masse are successful.
Like that.
And I don't think you have to be Asian or white for that matter to not have kids out of wedlock, not, commit crime, not cause trouble, whatever it is. It's just a matter of common sense. That's what makes people successful. And if that's so-called assimilation, having a nuclear family, buying a house, going to school, whatever it is, then yeah, okay, call me a pro-assimilation then.
I think there's a difference between assimilation and erasure.
Yes.
Isn't it obvious? Is it not so obvious, folks? Okay? Best Actress of 2022 by far. Redo the Oscar. I demand a recount. But in case you're still not sold, I want to lend more credence to his acting abilities. Because if you didn't like the performance on Vice, then I present to you his performance on his other hit film of the year, Being Oppressed. Okay, this is the other great movie of his, and this is also one of the greatest acting performances I've ever seen in my life, because it turns out that the real Zayed is the son of the former CEO of Citibank. So he's the son of a billionaire, very rich. He flies all over the country to do these woke TED Talks about nonsense, but he's obviously like a very oppressed and marginalized minority, as he said on the panel, in our white supremacist state. His words, that is the United States. Well, again, what is my conclusion there? The acting job was phenomenal. One of the best performances in the history of show business. And even if you still want to give, after all the evidence, if you still want to give the acting Oscar to Michelle Yeoh, still, okay, fine. But no Oscar at all? He doesn't get to win an Oscar in any category? Once again, a travesty. I mean, at least give Zayed the Oscar for Best Writer. After all, the brilliant writer, actor, producer, he does it all. He literally can do it all. Okay, again, most talented guy in the history of show business. Got accepted into Stanford for simply writing hashtag Black Lives Matter 100 times on his college essay. That's a true story, by the way. So he just copy-pasted Black Lives Matter hashtag 100 times, turned it in as his essay, got accepted into Stanford. And not only did he write that masterpiece, but again, his acting skills and his editing skills too. He can also edit. He manages to, after all of that, still paint America as a white supremacist state, despite the fact that America's top educational institutions are actually lowering their bar for woke minorities and actively discriminating against white people in their admissions practices. So again, not just a great writer, but a great actor and editor too. So I really don't see the case for at least not just one Oscar. I mean, really? Come on, folks. Is it because he's not in with Hollywood? Is it because he's not in with show business? That's corrupt. Okay? What's the issue here? Are you discriminating against him because he's Muslim? Or are you going to say he's not a real Asian because he's Bangladeshi? That's right. You can't say that. You can't say that, like, people from Asia Minor are not real. He's a real Asian, and he should have won Best Actress. Okay, this is real and true. Many are saying this. So again, redo the Oscar, recount the votes. Absolutely unbelievable. All right, last story tonight, and then we'll go to more Q&A and super chats and that. So if you want to, more Q&A, send in your super chats now. But last story, this is an emergency story. Okay, I did not prepare this on the show, but I saw this on Instagram minutes before we went live here. I don't know what else to say other than just check out this video. So our generation has some serious problems, and I don't know what's going on with the world anymore, and I'm kind of ready for Jesus to come back, frankly. But here's the video. Check this out. And Terrence Williams is doing a reaction video in what I'm about to play, so it kind of makes it better or worse. I think better, in my opinion. I like his facial expressions, but here you go. Check this out.
Come on. No, come on. Let's go. Let's go. Hey, come on, Jenna, go. Let's go. Bad girl, let's go. Keep walking.
Let's watch that one more time, so that you can just you need to witness that again. I think you need to see that twice.
Hey, come on, Jenna, go. Let's go. Bad girl, let's go. Keep walking.
To quote one of the smartest men in the history of Western civilization, our younger generation is truly lost, man. Truly lost, man. I don't even know what to say no more, man. And it's so true. It's so true. Again, I believe a very wise philosopher said that. I think it was Socrates. But again, yeah, one of the brightest minds in Western civilization's history. What even is this? So this is like obviously some type of like weird fetish that like people have, is they like to go like walk around as dogs. But they're doing it in public. Okay? They're doing this leash thing in public, and then they're LARPing. So there's two of them. They somehow found each other, and here they are just barking at each other. I don't know what to say. The world has truly lost its mind. Okay, I'm pretty sure soon this is going to be a thing. The trans species phenomenon, right? Obviously, you can be transgender. How long until like Furries are kind of a joke, right? They've kind of been a joke since 2016, kind of some entity to make fun of, etc. How long before it becomes like a very serious thing that they expect you to acknowledge? Because what's going to happen once they once they get you to acknowledge like just transgender, then they say transgender children. When they inevitably, unless we stop it, win with transgender children, what's the next logical step? Is like legalizing like kink and fetish in public, and then this thing, the trans species thing. Absolutely unhinged and unreal. Like I said, our younger generation is truly lost, man. Truly lost, man. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our stories for tonight. So I will go and read chat now. We are going to Q&A. Let's see. We've been live for about 44 minutes, so we'll go 10-15 more minutes here, read the chats, read the super chats. Again, if you want your question, as usual, if you want your question or comment for sure read, you can send it in as a super chat to support the show, and if not, I might pick from random from some of the regular chats as well. So let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. But there are the stories for tonight. Mr. Big Brain for $2. And I can verify, by the way, that Mr. Big Brain indeed does have a very big brain. But he says, why are our universities so compromised by lefties? Well, there's a left-wing subversion of the American university that dates back to like the 1920s, right? The left called it a long march. And that, again, like I said, communists and other actors have been, again, infiltrating academia since the 20s. And then, following World War II, the Frankfurt School, you may have heard of that. They're the ones who came up with critical theory and cultural Marxism. They came over. And so there's been this movement for a lot of decades. But I would also say that partially conservatives are to blame for it. Because I kind of think about how this even works in our modern culture. Every once in a while, you do have this like noble, virtuous, conservative, usually girls who say, I want to go into education. I want to be a teacher. But even then, usually they want to be an elementary teacher or a preschool teacher. There's this sort of culture in like post-war conservatism that doing something like teaching or pursuing the humanities is like dumb hippie nonsense, right? Oh, you pursue like, ethnic studies or history or whatever. Those are liberal majors. What are you, a hippie? Go do finance. Go be a doctor, engineer. Go do something useful, right? That's a conservative culture. And I understand why that exists, because obviously, your average teacher and even professors professors make good money, but they don't even make the same amount of money as these sort of higher end jobs and stuff. But I would still say at the same time that, like, I think, first of all, we as conservatives, I think it's actually conservative to be anti-materialistic, right? Not in the sense that, like, oh, we're going to live in the street and be homeless, but just in the sense that I think it's inherently conservative, actually, to understand that there is, like, more to life than simply making money. There's something about the soul and the dignity of what you're doing, etc. And so I think that we as conservatives, we should definitely keep doing the pursue money, pursue wealth thing, because obviously you have to have power to fight back. You have to have money to fight back. And so I'm not discouraging anyone from, trying to be rich. I think there are ways you can do that and help us, but we need more people to go into things like teaching, professors, humanities, things like that. And I think we kind of need to destigmatize those things from being taught as only liberal hippie things. But at the same time, it's difficult because we should have done that like 50 years ago. And now that we haven't, we've gotten to the point where if you want to study that, you can't go to university basically anywhere except Liberty and Hillsdale without being bombarded by leftist propaganda. So I don't know what you really do realistically. I'm just telling you, I think that's kind of how we got there. We got, okay, I'll get to Burgundy Blue in a second, but Abby for $50. Let's go, Abby. Big donation, big super chat here, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to Abby. Okay, everyone say W Abby. Okay, W Abby in the chat. $50. Big numbers says just keep praying for our country. It's so true. It's so true. And look, America right now needs a miracle. I mean, I think basically, I do think that everything that happens in the dominion of Earth is God's plan one way or another. But absolutely, you look at most of the material factors that are working against America, whether that's the financial system, which is only going to get worse, the sort of demographic divide, which is only going to get worse, the political divide. America needs a savior. America needs a miracle, and it is so true. So thank you very much for the $50, Abby. Huge donation. Huge super chat, and it's so true. Everyone say a prayer for our country before you go to bed tonight. Thank you very much, Abby. Wow. $50. Big numbers. Burgundy Blue for $10. Thank you very much, says Vince. The stream turned out great. What are your thoughts on Solstead of Eden? I've never even heard that, but Solstead of Eden, a trans woman who committed suicide. Okay, sorry. Beep. Okay. But when his Saudi parents hired stalkers and forced him to detransition, I don't know how much I can answer your question on YouTube, Burgundy Blue. They're so weird about those guidelines. But what I will say, I mean, yeah, I don't know if like hiring stalkers is the right move. I think they should have just sat him down and talked about it, you know. So I you know what? Let's. I know you sent in a super chat. I'm just worried about the guidelines here. It always happens. Okay, so message me privately. I'll tell you what I think. Okay, we'll do it that way. They're very annoying about that sometimes. Video Maker, good to see you, man. Says hi, Vince, for $2. Thank you very much for the $2, and good to see you, man. Haven't seen you in chat in a long time. Mr. Big Brain has joined the Dao Pack General tier. Thank you very much for joining the membership, Mr. Big Brain. And that's a very big brain move. One of the biggest brained move you could possibly make. Many are saying this, and it is so true. All right, we will continue for about like 7 or 8 more minutes here, and then I'll call it a night. So last call, be sure to send in any last minute chats, super chats, questions you want read and answered. But let's see regular chat. Let's acknowledge, let's help out, you know, the people. But before we do that, actually, leave a like on the stream. Okay, leave a like on the stream. Let's get to 150 likes. But anyways, let's read some regular chats here. They're using that as propaganda. True. Watch grassroots army school board meeting videos. I'll look into that for sure. All right, we got Aaron Chambers for $20. Thank you very much for the $20. Aaron Chambers says, I find your faith inspiring. I've been moving to, I am moving to Bloomington, Illinois, for the most beautiful woman I've ever met in my life. I have become a Christian myself within the last year. Well, we love to hear it. We love to hear it. God bless you, and that's wonderful news. Saints and angels are rejoicing in heaven at the news of that. Thank you for being strong, and wish Jessica and me well. Well, I will be sure to say a prayer for you and Jessica, and now that I've said it publicly, the chat can do it as well. So we do wish you well, and I find your faith inspiring, man. That's great to hear. Hey, you converted, you came to Christ, and then now you've met the most beautiful woman in your life. The church literally cannot stop taking W's. Physically impossible. So true. Thank you very much for the $20, Aaron Chambers. God bless you. Robert Sparksman for $5 says, Vince, what are your position on the doctrines of grace? Is that kind of in relation to what we are saved by? I believe we are saved by grace through faith. And I don't think that we're justified by our works. But I think that like works obviously are a product of having faith, right? Anyone who has sincere faith. And, you know, there's just like, sometimes I feel like the argument we get into is semantic over this. Sometimes it's a genuine disagreement, but I think we are justified by grace through faith, and our works, right? Those are the fruits of our faith. But I don't believe in, you know, works being what gets you into heaven. I just believe that those are a product of having natural faith, right? And so people think, oh, but Protestants, you guys just think you don't have to do anything, and no, if anyone with genuine faith is going to produce works, right? It's just that we are not justified by our works. We can't work our way into heaven. It's the grace through faith that gets us into heaven. So thank you very much for the $5, Robert Sparksman. Aiden for $5. Thank you very much, says Vince. It's nice to see how much you have grown. I just wanted to thank the Christians watching and spread my love. Stay strong. Thank you very much. You stay strong too, Aiden. Thank you very much for the $5. Big support tonight, guys. Good numbers tonight, okay? We appreciate it. God bless you. Thank you guys very much for the numbers tonight. Very epic. So, how many minutes are we at? We got about 4 to 5 more minutes left on tonight's stream. I'm thinking, so last night you guys really liked the rant about the printer, okay? People were saying that that's the best segment of the show, was when I just ranted about how my printer was making noise all day, and then I was like, why does a printer have to update? And so I didn't prepare one tonight, but I'm thinking maybe it would be quite funny if like we start implementing a segment that is based on just like what what really grinds my gears, like one of those segments. I don't know. I'm thinking of doing that. I'm thinking of doing segments like that, like funny rants about whatever at the end of the show. And like maybe also, maybe alternate between that and then show like funny animal videos, because I like sending people animal videos. They're hilarious. They make people smile. It brightens their day. So we could do that. I am the source of the funniest animal videos on all of Instagram Reels. Okay. I'm good at the algorithm. I managed to get all of them. JD for $2 says Bethany Mandel got her tongue tied defining woke. Thank you very much for the $2. I'll have to look into that. Maybe that'll be a story tomorrow. But is it a stupid question? Am I going to be really stupid? Is this a stupid question, guys? Who is Bethany Mandel? Okay, I'm Googling her right now. Okay, she's a conservative columnist and commentator who writes for Deseret News and Ricochet. She struggles to come up with the definition of woke. Oh, okay. So basically, they asked her about her book, define the term woke, and she couldn't really do it. Okay. I would say that my best definition for woke is literally just that which upends and destroys society, okay? So wokeism, in my opinion, is a blanket term for all of just the worst ideas ever created in human history. So, communism, Marxism, leftism, socialism, Satanism, it's all under the umbrella term of woke, okay? That's the way I use it. That's the, and honestly, I don't even really like the term woke all that much. I use it because it's like, that's the term we use. And so when I'm titling videos and stuff, I'll just put woke so that way people understand like what we're doing and kind of the cultural content we're making. But I think that there are better terms than woke. We could just say evil, because that's what it is. It's evil, like I said. Communist, satanic, there are better terms to use, but this is true. Burgundy Blue for $5. Thank you very much. I think this will be the last super chat of the night, unless someone sends a very, very quickly right now. Someone in chat was asking which president you prefer, Reagan or Nixon. Personally, I prefer Nixon despite his Cambodia bombing. I used to lean very hard Nixon on this question. Like I said, the more I've kind of softened up to Reagan, it's actually a tough question on my front. I'm very honestly kind of a fence sitter on that question. Like that's something I'd have to think about and lay out side by side. I would say I would much rather be around during the 80s than the late 60s, early 70s, right? And so I'd rather live in Reagan's America, definitely. I honestly think if you combined the best aspects of Reagan with the best aspects of Nixon and left out, all the bad stuff, you'd have the ideal perfect president. But I really can't give you an easy answer to that question. Like I said, if the answer that I'd rather live in Reagan's America works for you, then sure. But again, if we're comparing leaders, There's a case to be made on both sides. I actually got to think about that one. But thank you very much for the $5, Burgundy Blue. All right, I believe we're all caught up on Super Chats here tonight. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, thank you very much for tuning in to tonight's episode of the Vince Dao Show. We will see you again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. What's tomorrow? Thursday. So we'll see you again here Thursday, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Until then, have a very good and blessed night. Remember to leave a like on the stream before you go. And until the next time I see you, alpha moves only. God bless. Get a good night's sleep. And peace.